Obtaining a driver license. When you apply for an original California DL, you must present acceptable documents establishing your identity, birth date, residency, and provide your Social Security number, SSN, if eligible. When a document is required, with the exception of proof of residency, adhere to the following requirements. Provide a certified copy, or an unexpired original document. Provide a document containing an impressed seal, or original stamped impression, if applicable. Do not provide a photocopy. A photocopy is acceptable for residency documents. Do not present self-laminated cards or documents, however, DMV may accept laminated or metal SSN cards. If you present a limited-term identity document, your DL/ID card may expire on the same date as your identity document. If the name on your document is different from the name on your driver license and ID card application, you must also bring an acceptable true full name document. Your fingerprint, signature, and photograph will also be taken. Refer to the Application Requirements for a Basic Class C Driver License section on page 6. For any other DL/ID card transaction, you must present photo identification. Examples of acceptable identity documents include U.S. birth certificate, U.S. passport, U.S. Armed Forces ID cards, certificate of naturalization, permanent resident card, or a foreign passport with a valid I-94. The I-94 expiration date must be more than 2 months from the date you visit the field office. Examples of true full name verification documents include adoption documents containing your legal name as a result of the adoption, name change documents containing your legal name both before and after, marriage certificate. Certificate or registration document verifying the formation of a domestic partnership or a dissolution of marriage/ domestic partnership document containing your legal name as a result of the court order. Examples of acceptable residency documents include home utility bill, including cell phone, insurance documents, California title or registration for a vehicle or vessel, or record of a financial institution. A parent, legal guardian, or child may use a birth certificate. And a spouse or domestic partner may use a marriage certificate or domestic partner registration certificate to connect their relationship to the individual to whom the acceptable residency documents were addressed. A complete list of acceptable documents is available at dmv.ca.gov. Married, divorced, or name change. You may need to provide a name change document. A name change documents, such as a marriage certificate, may be required to issue a real ID compliant DL/ID card in your true full name. If the name on your identity document is different from the name you provided on your application, you must submit a document that establishes your true full name. For example, an adoption document that contains the legal name as a result of adoption. Name change document that contains the legal name both before and after the name change. Marriage certificate. Certificate, declaration, or registration document verifying the formation of a domestic partnership. Dissolution of marriage domestic partnership document that contains the legal name as a result of the court action. Application requirements for a basic Class C driver license. To apply for a Class C DL, you must submit a completed and signed driver license and ID card application. DL44/EDL44 form. The EDL44 can be completed online in advance. Signing this form means you agree to submit to a chemical test to determine the alcohol or drug content of your blood when requested by a peace officer. If you refuse to sign this statement, DMV will not issue a permit or DL. Present and acceptable documents establishing your identity and birth date. Provide your true full name. Present and acceptable residency documents. Provide your SSN, if eligible, which will be electronically verified with the SSA. Pay a non-refundable application fee. The fee is good for 12 months. If all requirements are not met within 12 months, the application will no longer be valid and you must reapply. Allows you 3 attempts to pass each of the required knowledge tests. If you fail the knowledge test 3 times, the application is no longer valid and you must reapply. Allows you 3 attempts at the driving test. Important, if you fail the driving test, you must pay a retest fee for subsequent tests and schedule the driving test for another day. If you fail the driving test 3 times, the application will no longer be valid and you must reapply. Pass a vision test with or without corrective lenses. With visual acuity better than 20/200 in at least 1 eye without the use of a bioptic telescopic lens or similar bioptic device to meet the minimum vision acuity standard, CVC 12805, A2. Have your photograph taken. Give a fingerprint scan. Sign your name. Note, please visit dmv.ca.gov for a complete list of DL application fees. Adults permit requirements. If you are at least 18 years old, meet the application requirements, and pass the required tests, you may be issued a California instruction permit. You must have an instruction permit while learning to drive. Your accompanying driver must be 18 years old or older, and have a valid California DL. This person must be seated close enough to take control of the vehicle at any time. An instruction permit does not permit you to drive alone, not even to a DMV field office, to take the driving test. If you want to obtain professional driver education and training, refer to the driving schools and mature driver program sections on pages 23 and 24. To get a motorcycle permit, you must complete the application requirements. Submit a certificate of completion of the motorcycle training, DL 389. Form, if under 21 years old. Pass a knowledge test. Note, if you have a motorcycle permit, you cannot carry passengers, must ride during daylight hours only, and cannot ride on the freeway. Adults driver license requirements. If you are at least 18 years old, and have never been licensed, you must meet the following criteria. Comply with the requirements for a driving permit. When you are ready, make an appointment to take the behind-the-wheel driving test. When you report for the driving test, bring your instruction permit with you. Pass the behind-the-wheel driving test. If you fail the test, you must pay a retest fee for a second or subsequent test and schedule a behind-the-wheel driving test for another day. If you have an out-of-state DL, you must complete all the steps required for an instruction permit. Bring your valid out-of-state DL to DMV. Your out-of-state DL will be invalidated and returned to you unless you are applying for a commercial DL, CDL. Note, the behind-the-wheel driving test for holders of out-of-state or U.S. territory DLs are normally waived. However, DMV may require a behind-the-wheel driving test for any type of DL application. Behind-the-wheel driving tests are mandatory for out-of-country DL holders. Driver license classes. Class C DL. You may drive a 2-axle vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR, of 26,000 pounds, or less. 3-axle vehicle weighing 6,000 pounds or less gross. House car 40 feet or less in length. 3-wheel motorcycle with 2 wheels located in the front or back. Vanpool vehicle designed to carry more than 10 persons, but no more than 15 persons, including the driver. Note, a driver of a vanpool may operate with a Class C license, but shall possess evidence of a medical examination required for a Class B license when operating vanpool vehicles. In the vanpool vehicle, the driver must keep a statement, signed under penalty of perjury, that they have not been convicted of reckless driving, drunk driving, or hit and run in the last 5 years, CVC 12804.9J. You may tow a single vehicle with a GVWR of 10,000 pounds or less, including a tow dolly if used. With a vehicle weighing 4,000 pounds or more unladen, you may tow a trailer coach or fifth wheel travel trailer under 10,000 pounds GVWR when towing is not for compensation. Fifth wheel travel trailer exceeding 10,000 pounds, but under 15,000 pounds GVWR when towing is not for compensation and with endorsement. A farmer or employee of a farmer may drive any combination of vehicles with a GVWR of 26,000 pounds or less, if used exclusively in agricultural operations and not for hire or compensation. Note: Class C licensees may not tow more than one vehicle. A passenger vehicle, regardless of weight, may not tow more than one vehicle. A motor vehicle under 4,000 pounds unladen weight may not tow any vehicle weighing 6,000 pounds or more gross. CVC 21715B. Other classes of DL's endorsements are Non-Commercial Class A, Non-Commercial Class B, Commercial Class A, Commercial Class B, Commercial Class C, Motorcycle Class M1, Motorcycle Class M2. Commercial endorsements. Doubles/triples. Hazardous materials. Passenger transportation. Tank vehicle. Ambulance driver certificate. School bus endorsement. Tow truck driver certificate. Verification of transit training certificate. Farm labor vehicle certificate. Firefighter endorsement note. Commercially licensed firefighters must submit a medical examination report, MER, Form MCSA 5875, and Medical Examiner's Certificate, MEC, Form MCSA 5876. Non-commercially licensed firefighters may submit a self-certifying health questionnaire, DL 546. The examination process. Where to take the tests. You may take the knowledge, vision, and behind-the-wheel driving tests at most DMV field offices that provide DL services. To save time, make an appointment at dmv.ca.gov or call 1-800-777-0133 during normal business hours. Note: knowledge and vision tests are required when you apply for an original DL or upgrade to a different class of DL. DMV examinations. Your DL examinations include a vision test, bring your eyeglasses or wear contact lenses if required for driving. A knowledge test. DMV utilizes an automated touchscreen terminal, TST, to administer the knowledge test. A behind-the-wheel driving test if required. For the driving test, you must have an appointment and bring your old DL or instruction permit, if you have one. A licensed driver age 18 years old or older, with a valid California DL. Proof that the vehicle is properly insured. Important: if you use a rental vehicle, the driving test applicant must be listed on the rental contract. The contract must not exclude driving tests. A vehicle that is safe to drive and has valid registration. The vehicle's brake lights, horn, parking brake, and turn signals must work properly. The vehicle cannot have bald tires, which would have less than 1/32 inch tread depth in any two adjacent grooves. The driver's side window must roll down. The windshield must allow a full unobstructed field of vision for you and the examiner. There must be at least 2 rear-view mirrors, one must be on the left outside of the vehicle. You will be asked to locate the controls for the vehicle's headlights, windshield wipers, defroster, and emergency flashers. You must demonstrate how to use the parking brake. Note: the behind-the-wheel driving test will be rescheduled if the vehicle does not meet the above requirements, or if you refuse to use your seat belt during the driving test. Technology, such as backup cameras and self-parking, cannot solely be used on a driving test. For your safety, no pets or passengers, other than the DMV examiner or other authorized personnel, are permitted in the vehicle during your driving test. For more information, refer to the Preparing for Your Driving Test. FFDL 22, Fast Facts Brochure, DMV videos, and sample tests available at dmv.ca.gov. Cheating. The use of testing aids is strictly prohibited. This includes, but is not limited to, the California Driver Handbook, cheat sheets, and/or electronic communication devices such as a cell phone, handheld computer, etc. If any testing aid is used during the knowledge test, the knowledge test will be marked as a failure. An action may also be taken by DMV against your driving privilege, or the driving privilege of anyone else who assists you in the examination process. Special Section, Minors. Minors Permit Requirements. A minor is a person under 18 years old. Minors must have their applications for a DL or any change of DL class, signed by their parents or legal guardians. If both parents' guardians have joint custody, both must sign. Note, minors may not work as a driver for pay, and they may not drive a school bus containing pupils. To get a permit you must be at least 15 and 1/2 years old. Complete the driver license and ID card application, DL44/EDL44. Form. Have your parents or legal guardians sign the application. Note, you can fill out the driver license and ID card application online, and your parents or legal guardians can sign the form electronically. Pass the knowledge test. If you fail the test, you must wait 7 days 1 week, not including the day the test was failed, before retaking the test. If you are 15 and 1/2, 17 1/2 years old, you will need to provide proof that you completed driver education, certificate of completion of driver education, or are enrolled and participating in an approved integrated driver education driver training program, certificate of enrollment in an integrated classroom driver education and driver training program. For more information, refer to the Provisional Licensing. FFDL 19, Fast Facts Brochure at dmv.ca.gov. The provisional permit is not valid until you start your behind-the-wheel driver training with an instructor or reach 17 and 1/2 years old. If you have a permit and plan to drive outside of California, check licensing requirements in that state or country. Note, if you are at least 17 and 1/2 years old, you may obtain a permit without completing driver education or driver training. However, you cannot get a DL before you are 18 years old. Minors permit restrictions. Your permit is not valid until you begin driver training. Your instructor will sign the permit to validate it. You must practice with a licensed California driver, parent, guardian, driving instructor, spouse, or adult 25 years old or older. The person must sit close enough to you to take control of the vehicle at any time. A provisional permit does not allow you to drive alone at any time, not even to a DMV field office to take a driving test. Minors driver license requirements. YOUMUST. Be at least 16 years old. Prove that you have completed both driver education and driver training. Have had a California instruction permit, or an instruction permit from another state for at least 6 months, refer to the Out-of-State Minors section on page 15. Provide parents or guardians' signatures on your instruction permit certifying that you have completed 50 hours of supervised driving practice. 10 hours must be night driving, as outlined in the California Parent-Teen Training Guide, DL 603. Visit the teen website at dmv.ca.gov or call 1-800-777-0133 to request this booklet. Pay a non-refundable application fee. Note, the fee is good for 12 months. If all requirements are not met within 12 months, the application is no longer valid and you must reapply. Pass each of the required knowledge tests. If you fail the knowledge test 3 times, the application is no longer valid and you must reapply. Pass the driving test within 3 attempts. Important, if you fail the driving test, you must pay a retest fee, schedule a subsequent test, and wait 14 days, 2 weeks, not including the day the test was failed before you are retested. If you fail the driving test 3 times, the application is no longer valid and you must reapply. Once you have your provisional DL, you may drive alone, as long as you do not have any collisions or traffic violations on your driving record. During the first 12 months after you are licensed, you cannot drive between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. and cannot transport passengers under 20 years old, unless accompanied by a California licensed parent or guardian, a California licensed driver 25 years old or older, or a licensed or certified driving instructor. When you become 18 years old, the provisional part of your DL ends. You may keep your provisional photo DL, or pay a fee for a duplicate DL without the word provisional. Exceptions: minors driver license restrictions. The law allows the following exceptions when reasonable transportation is not available and it is necessary to drive. A signed note explaining the necessity to drive, and the date when this driving necessity will end must be kept in your possession for the following exceptions. Emancipated minors are excluded from this requirement. Medical necessity to drive when reasonable transportation alternatives are inadequate. The note must be signed by a physician with the diagnosis and probable date of recovery. Schooling or school-authorized activity. The note must be signed by the school principal, dean, or designee. Employment necessity, and the need to operate a vehicle as part of your employment. The note must be signed by the employer verifying employment. The necessity to drive an immediate family member. The note must be signed by your parents or legal guardians, stating the reason and probable end date of the necessity to drive the immediate family member. Exception: these requirements do not apply to an emancipated minor. Emancipated minors must provide DMV with court documents showing that the court has granted a petition for emancipation, and provide a California Insurance Proof Certificate, SR22/SR1P, form in lieu of their parents or guarantors. Signatures. Emancipated minors are not exempt from the integrated driver education and driver training program requirements. Out-of-state minors. All out-of-state minor applicants must comply with the application requirements outlined in the Application Requirements for a Basic Class C driver license section on page 6 and must have parents' or legal guardian's signature on the driver license and ID card application. DL44/EDL44 form. Out-of-state minors permit. Out-of-state minors permit applicants must meet the requirements listed in the Minors Permit Requirements section on page 12. In addition, if your driver education and driver training courses were taken in a state other than California, DMV may accept aid to secondary schools other than California schools, DL33, form completed by the out-of-state secondary school. You may obtain a DL33 at your local DMV field office, or by calling DMV at 1-800-777-0133. Send the DL33 to your out-of-state secondary school, and ask them to complete and return it to you. Out-of-state minors driver license. You will be asked to present your out-of-state DL and pass a knowledge test as part of the application process. The behind-the-wheel driving test for holders of out-of-state DLs are normally waived. However, DMV may require a behind-the-wheel driving test for any type of DL application. Note: out-of-state minor applicants are subject to all provisional restrictions per California law for the first year of the DL, or until they turn 18 years old. Actions against the provisional driver license. Teenagers as a group average twice as many collisions as adult drivers, while driving only half as many miles. The teenage collision rate per mile is 4 times greater than the adult driver collision rate per mile. Traffic deaths of new drivers are deadly combinations of their inexperienced driving, lack of familiarity with the vehicle, and their need to push themselves and the vehicle to the limit. Keeping your provisional driver license. DMV will track your driving record and take actions based upon any collisions or violations as follows. If you get a traffic ticket and fail to appear in court, DMV will suspend your driving privilege until you appear in court. If you have one at-fault collision or conviction of a traffic law violation within 12 months, DMV will send you a warning letter. If you have 2 at-fault collisions or convictions, or combination, of a traffic law violation within 12 months, you cannot drive for 30 days, unless accompanied by your licensed parent or other licensed adult who is at least 25 years old. If you have 3 at-fault collisions or convictions, or any combination of a traffic law violation within 12 months, you will be suspended for 6 months and placed on probation for 1 year. If you have 4 or more at-fault collisions or point-count convictions of traffic law violations while on probation, you will be suspended again. Traffic law violations resolved in juvenile court are also reported to DMV. If you are convicted of using alcohol or a controlled substance, and you are between 13 to 21 years old, the court orders DMV to suspend your DL for 1 year. If you do not have a DL, the court orders DMV to delay your eligibility to apply for a DL. You may also be required to complete a DUI program. Any restriction, suspension, or probation will continue for its full term past your 18th birthday. Other, stronger actions may be taken if your driving record justifies them. Remember, if your driving privilege has been suspended or revoked, you may not drive. Minors and cell phones. It is against the law for a minor to use a cell phone or electronic wireless communications device while driving. Do not answer calls or respond to text messages. Convictions for violations of this law are subject to fines. Exceptions: you may use a cell phone only to contact law enforcement, a healthcare provider, the fire department, or another emergency entity in an emergency situation when driving. Miscellaneous licensing information. To replace a lost/stolen or damaged driver license. If your DL is lost, stolen, or damaged, you must go to a DMV field office, complete the DL44/EDL44 form. The EDL44 can be completed online in advance, and pay a fee for the replacement. You should also present a photo ID. If DMV cannot confirm your identity, you will not be issued a temporary DL. If you are a minor, your parents or guardians must sign the application. If both parents' guardians have joint custody, both must sign. Once a replacement DL is issued, the previous DL is no longer valid. Destroy the old DL if you find it later. Name changes. When you legally change your name because of marriage or other reasons, be sure to change your name with SSA before coming into DMV. Bring your DL to DMV in person, along with your marriage certificate or other acceptable verification of your true full name. Refer to the Obtaining a Driver License section on page 4. You must complete the driver license and ID card application, DL44/EDL44, form. The EDL44 can be completed online in advance and pay the applicable fee. DMV will electronically verify your name, birth date, and SSN with SSA. A new photograph, fingerprint, and signature will be taken. Gender category changes. Effective January 1, 2019, customers may apply for a gender category of male, female, or non-binary. You are no longer required to provide a medical certification and authorization, DL329, form, completed by a physician or psychologist who certifies to an applicant's gender identification or demeanor. If you wish to obtain a DL/ID card with a gender category that differs from the gender on your identity document or existing California DL/ID card, you must present, in person, a completed gender category request, DL329S, form to DMV. Driver license renewals. DMV sends a renewal notice to your address of record approximately 120 days before your DL expires. Follow the instructions on the renewal notice. If you do not receive a renewal notice, go online or call to make an appointment to renew your DL, refer to page 8. Note, you will not receive a renewal notice if you have a pending application on file with DMV. Qualified drivers may be eligible to renew their DL on the DMV website at dmv.ca.gov or by mail. DMV may issue a DL for 5 years. The DL expires on your birthday in the year shown on the DL, unless otherwise indicated. It is against the law to drive with an expired DL. A driving test may be required as part of any DL application. Driving tests are not required simply because of age. If DMV cannot confirm your identity, you will not be issued a temporary DL. For other types of DLs, refer to the California Commercial Driver Handbook, DL 650, Recreational Vehicles and Trailers Handbook. DL 648, or California Motorcycle Handbook, DL 665. Renewal by mail or internet. If you have not received 2 consecutive 5-year DL extensions, you may be eligible to renew by mail or internet without taking a knowledge test if your current DL expires before age 70. You do not have a probationary DL, CVC 14250. You have not violated a written promise to appear in court within the last 2 years. You are not suspended for driving with an illegal blood alcohol concentration, BAC, level, or refusing or failing to complete a chemical or preliminary alcohol screening test within the last 2 years. You do not have a total violation point count greater than 1 point. Driver license extension. If you are away from California, up to 1 year, you may request a free 1-year extension before your DL expires. Mail your request to DMV, P.O. Box 942890, Sacramento, California, 94290-0001. Include your name, DL number, birthdate, California residence address, and out-of-state address. Limited-term drivers are not eligible for this extension. Driver license in your possession. You must always keep your DL with you when you drive. You must show it to any peace officer who asks to see it. If you are in a collision, you must show it to the other drivers involved. Refer to the involved in a collision section on page 95. Address changes. When you move, you must give DMV your new address within 10 days. There is no fee to change your address. You may notify DMV of your address change for your DL/ID card and vehicles online at dmv.ca.gov. You may also download a change of address, DMV 14, form, or call DMV at 1-800-777-0133 to request a DMV 14 be mailed to you. Mail the completed DMV 14 to the address on the form. A new DL/ID card is not issued when you change your address. You may type or write your new address on a small piece of paper, sign and date the paper, and carry it. Do not use tape or staples with your DL/ID card. If you change your address at a field office, a DMV representative will give you a change of address card, DL-43, to complete and carry with your DL/ID card. Important: change your address with the U.S. Postal Service to ensure DMV correspondence is forwarded to your current mailing address. It is your responsibility to ensure DMV has your correct mailing address on record. Vision. DMV screens all drivers to measure vision with or without corrective lenses. If you do not meet DMV's vision standard, 20/40, you will be required to visit a vision specialist. Organ and tissue donation. You may sign up to donate your organs and tissue for transplantation after your death. When you apply for or renew your DL/ID card and check the Yes, add or keep my name on the donor registry box, your name will be added to the Donate Life California Organ Tissue Donor Registry, and a pink donor dot will appear on your DL/ID card. You must mark yes to maintain the donor dot on your DL/ID card. When you check the I do not wish to register to be an organ or tissue donor at this time box, your name will not be removed from the registry. If you wish to remove your name from the registry, you must contact Donate Life California. DMV can remove the donor dot from your DL/ID card, but cannot remove you from the registry. You may also provide a $2 voluntary contribution to support and promote organ and tissue donation by checking the "Would you like to make a voluntary $2 contribution" box. As outlined in the California Anatomical Gift Act, your authorization is legally binding and, unless the donor is under 18 years old, your decision does not require the consent of any other person. For registered donors under 18 years old, the legal guardian shall make the final donation decision. You may limit your donation to specific organs or tissues, place usage restrictions. For example, transplantation or research, obtain more information about donation, change or update your donor status or information including your name and address, or remove your name from the registry on the Donate Life California website at donatelifecalifornia.org. Veteran designation and benefit information. For an additional $5 fee, DMV offers those who proudly served our country the option to mark the face of their DL/ID card with the word veteran to indicate they served in the U.S. Armed Forces. In addition, DMV will refer veterans to the California Department of Veterans Affairs to determine eligibility for benefits acquired while serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. How can I get veterans designation? Visit County Veterans Service Officers, CVSO, to obtain a signed, Certified Veteran Status Verification Form, VSD-001. Visit a DMV field office to request the veteran's designation be added to the DL/ID card. For more information, visit the DMV website at dmv.ca.gov or refer to the "Are You a Veteran?" FFDL 43, Fast Facts brochure. The California Department of Veterans Affairs, CalVET, Connect program would like you to receive information regarding benefits such as employment, housing, education, and healthcare services for which you may be entitled. Check the "If you have served, would you like to receive benefits information for which you may be eligible" box on the DL44/EDL44 form. DMV will transmit your name and mailing address to CalVET for them to forward you benefits information. To locate a CalVET office near you, refer to your local government listing in your telephone book, visit the CalVET website at calvet.ca.gov, or visit dmv.ca.gov. Register to vote. You may register to vote or update your voter registration with DMV when applying for an original DL/ID, renewing your DL/ID, or changing your address. For more information, visit dmv.ca.gov. Unlicensed drivers. It is against the law to loan your vehicle to a person who is unlicensed or whose driving privilege has been suspended or revoked. If an unlicensed person is caught driving your vehicle, it may be impounded for 30 days. CVC 14607.6. No person of any age may drive on a highway or in a public parking facility unless they have a valid DL or permit. The law also states that you must not employ, permit, or authorize any person to drive your vehicle on a public street or highway unless they are licensed to drive that class of vehicle. A person must be at least 21 years old to drive most commercial vehicles for hire in interstate commerce and to transport hazardous materials or wastes. Diplomatic driver licenses. Non-residents who possess a valid diplomatic DL issued by the U.S. Department of State are exempt from California driver licensing requirements. Identification New technology. Your vehicle may have technology that allows you to have cell phone conversations or play music from an electronic wireless communications device. With the increase of such technologies, it is important to remain aware of road conditions and avoid driving distractions. Here are some tips to reduce technological distractions. Do not input navigation instructions while driving. Do not adjust music or other electronic wireless communications devices while driving. For navigation devices, use the audio navigation function when possible. Note, technology, such as backup cameras and self-parking, cannot solely be used on a driving test. The purpose of a driving test is to ensure your ability to drive. NTICA IG.A11 Audruel, Oldo 1-Lufthansa.ilo 2WL, MDL. Occupant protection. Seat belts. Wearing seat belts is the law. Always fasten your seat belt and make sure all your passengers are using seat belts or child restraints. Wearing seat belts, both lap belt and shoulder harness, will increase your chance of survival in most types of collisions. It is important to wear the seat belt correctly. A shoulder harness is worn across the shoulder and chest with minimal, if any, slack. The shoulder harness should not be worn under the arm or behind the back. Wearing the harness the wrong way could cause serious internal injuries in a collision. The lap belt should be adjusted so that it is snug and lies low across your hips after fastening. Otherwise, in a crash, you could slide out of the belt, resulting in injury or death. Pregnant women should wear the lap belt as low as possible under the abdomen, and the shoulder strap should be placed between the breasts and to the side of the abdomen's bulge. You and all passengers must wear a seat belt, or you and/or your passengers may be cited. If the passenger is under 16 years old, you may be cited if they are not wearing their seat belt. The graphic illustrates what can happen in a collision. If you are struck from the side, the impact could push you back and forth across the seat. Seat belts and shoulder harnesses keep you in a better position to control the vehicle and may minimize serious injuries. The graphic also illustrates how, when you collide, your vehicle stops, but you keep going at the same speed you were traveling until you hit the dashboard or windshield. Child restraint system and safety seats. Your child must be secured by either a federally approved child passenger restraint system or a safety belt depending on their height and age. Children under 2 years old must be secured in a rear-facing child passenger restraint system unless the child is 40 pounds or more, or 3 feet 4 inches or taller. Children under 8 years old, or who are less than 4 feet 9 inches tall, must be properly secured in a federally approved child passenger restraint system. Children under 8 years old may ride in the front seat of a vehicle in a federally approved child passenger restraint system under the following instances. There is no rear seat. The rear seats are side-facing jump seats. The rear seats are rear-facing seats. The child passenger restraint system cannot be installed properly in the rear seat. All rear seats are already occupied by children 7 years old or younger. Medical reasons require the child to not ride in the back seat. A child may not ride in the front seat of an airbag-equipped vehicle if they are in a rear-facing child passenger restraint system. Children who are 8 years old or older, or who have reached at least 4 feet 9 inches in height, may use a properly secured safety belt meeting federal standards. Note, child passenger restraint system installation may be checked by contacting local law enforcement agencies and fire departments. As your child grows, check to see if the child passenger restraint system is the right size for your child.